really excited to have Mike from Simple Nursing on the program. Thanks for joining, Mike.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. We've been working together with 700 for like 3 years now-ish. That's pretty wild. It's been a while.
Yeah, 3 years now. It's been a blast, taking us all over the country. I know you've joined Zoom calls from all over the world. You're like, South Asia. Oh, I'm in Hawaii. I'm in snow. We're just trying to keep up with you, Mike, but really happy to have you on the program.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. I think we were talking a few years before we got acquired, so it was pretty special.
Yes, it's been quite a bit of time at this point. So we'll just dive into it, Mike. We'd love to hear a little bit about your journey. I know we engaged with you after you were well into the process of creating content for Simple Nursing and all that, but I'd like to go back even before that. Just tell us a little bit about your career, how you got into healthcare, and then ultimately what Simple Nursing became, and just tell us that story.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone now knows me as like the YouTube guy for Simple Nursing, which we made thousands of videos for nursing students helping them pass. And I'm like, I always tell them like, guys, it's like a 10-year overnight success. It's it took a long time. So like around, I think all the way back to like 18, um, for some reason I got like bit by this entrepreneurial bug. Um, and I think it runs in the family because my great grandfather actually owns a huge box making company on Puerto Rico Island. And they got so big that they were the number one packager for Bacardi. Um, and in the 70s, we're doing a few $1 million in net revenue a year. I was like, whoa. So anyways, so I think that's where it comes from. Um, and then I started working on the ambulance right around 18, 19. I was supposed to go in the fire academy like my brother. But then I met a guy at church that was like, hey, you should like start stoking the flames of this, entrepreneurial bug. And so I had a mentor early on, and this guy is named Brian Weiner. He owns, at the time, it was like 2008-ish, maybe 2007. He had like 25 real estate investment properties. Um, and so I looked up to him, and he's like, you have to read these books. If you want to grow your bank, you got to grow your brain. If you want more, you got to become more. And I'm like, okay. So I just like started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, Napoleon Hill, like, all the greats. And then the other thing was in the book 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss was talking about how, wouldn't it be cool if you can, build a business online and then travel anywhere in the world and you work remote? And at the time, it sounded like so foreign because this was like 2008 when the book came out. And it's like way before COVID when everyone's working remote. And so I'm like, wow, that would be cool. And so ever since like 19, I was trying to do that. And I think one of the books was talking about how 9 out of every 10 businesses fail. So if you want to be successful, you got to be willing to fail 9 times. And if you're not, then just don't start. So I got to about 6 failures. And so I was working on the ambulance and doing personal training at the time. And so I left the ambulance like right around 21. Had a little boot camp going, an outdoor boot camp, and learned sales processes. That was like my first little business. And we made like 20 grand in 1 month in terms of contracts. And I'm like,
Whoa.
woo! I was like, man, as a 21-year-old, I'm just like living on top of like, I made
Yeah.
it. And then, but it was all in contracts, right? So, 6 months later, 2008 financial crisis occurred, and all my stay-at-home moms that were working out with me lost their husbands are, financially wrecked. So everyone just like quit on me. I'm like, dang it. So it pushed me back into the hospital making $12 an hour. And I remember like feeling so grateful, like for making $12 an hour. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And so, it was during then that I was like, hey, maybe I should try this YouTube thing. And so I made 4 other fitness channels for YouTube. They used to be up, but I just recently checked a few months ago, and I think it's been over 10 years. So I think YouTube just took it down. Um, but I spent a lot of money on production, and I went into like a few $1,000s in debt. Um, and nothing really ever came of it. So at that point, I'm around like 5 failures in terms of business. And I'm like, okay, I got 4 more to go, but I'm like, I'm so like beaten down. And I kind of just quit at that point. And so I just decided to go to nursing school. And I never wanted to be a man nurse. I always looked down on that. I applied to physician assistant school for like 3 years and never got in. And so I'm like, all right, screw it. I guess I'll just become a nurse and maybe do a travel nurse because I like to travel. And so I started there. Um, and it was funny because during nursing school, like the first semester of nursing school for me, it was like, oh, here's how to take a blood pressure. Here's how to walk someone to the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah, I'm used to like being in the back of an ambulance trying to start an IV. It's like bouncing everywhere, like critical patients. I'm like, man, nursing school's a joke. And so being a young 20 something year old, I was pretty cocky. And I'm like, you know, um, um, basically like a know-it-all. I was always showing up late and then, turning my assignments in late. And I still have the most write-ups for like anyone in like first semester. And so just like super douchey, just like, yeah, like a young 22-year-old frat boy kind of person. And so maybe 23. Um, and so I actually got kicked out of nursing school my third semester for being late. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow.
They kicked me out. But my dean was really cool. My dean sat me down. She's like, "Hey, listen, like, I know you can probably teach some of these courses, but show me you're serious. Like, get in and then get out. Get out of my hair." And I'm like, "Okay." But she's like, "You have to do a project for me to show me you're serious to get back in. If you don't want to do the project, you're not getting back in." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, "Well, I'm used to running boot camps. Why don't we do like a 14-day like boot camp for new nurses or struggling nursing students? Let me show them how to study, how to time manage, how to think about, difficult concepts with memory tricks." And it was during that process, they're like, "Oh, you should put this on YouTube." And for me, I'm like, that's the dumbest idea in the world. I'm like, okay, because on paper, right? It's like, who's gonna watch a guy who just failed out of nursing school, is not a nurse, 5 failures in business, 4 of them being, YouTube channels that all failed, and now I'm a few $1,000s in debt. All the cards are stacked against me. I'm like, this is not gonna work, guys. And so but I still remember like being in the shower one day. I'm like, well, I have a iPhone that I don't have to pay for because it's already mine. I have a whiteboard that's like $30 from Walmart and a sock to erase the board. I'm like, I could just fail again. It doesn't really matter. And it's just a project to get back into nursing school. It'll make me look good in front of the dean. So that's what I did. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna upload 5 videos, and no one's gonna watch this shit. So I'm like, okay. But then it got a few thousand views. I'm like, no way, this is weird. I'm like, this is a fluke. It's never gonna last. And then so I made like 5 more, and then so these 5 became 50. And then I'm like, well, no one's gonna pay for this crap. And so I uh I went on Udemy, which is kind of like a Skillshare. And yeah, Udemy, like if you guys don't know, like for the listeners, it just allows you to upload any lesson plan that you have. You can do downloads and video courses, basically like a masterclass. But Udemy does take a pretty significant share, like 40%. But it's great, like starting out. Like starting out as a concept, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket for web developers. They have an app. Like everything's just like plug and play, like Facebook. It's like you know, it's like a course. So it's great for starting out, just to test your concept without any money out of pocket. And so I still remember I'm like I got back into nursing school for this, for doing this project. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my last semester and I'm like 6 months to graduation. And I'm thinking like, okay, if I get a sale a day on this Udemy course for $19 for like 50 videos and a few downloads, if I get one sale a day for 45 days, then I'll just quit my job. And for me at the time, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, I think I was making like 13.50 an hour. And I'm like, I really need this job. And so I ended up making double that. In 45 days, I made like 90 sales or maybe 100. And I'm like, this is crazy. For me at the time, I never really made a dollar online, even though I tried so many different things. And I'm like, this is crazy. But I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do this every Friday. I'm going to put the webcam on for, 10 hours, and I'm just going to shoot 10 hours of video. And so we chopped it up, or basically I chopped it up. I would stop the video after every 10 minutes to do like chunks, and was dumping about 25 videos a week, 100 videos a month on YouTube, but unedited, completely webcammy, and just tutoring students, anyone who want to join the webcam. And then YouTube loved me at the time because there was a window of time that that Google was investing a lot into Khan Academy and into educational platforms, because there was like a pivoting point for YouTube. It was like 2010 to I think 14-ish, where they want to transition from like, cat videos and fall down videos and motocross to like an educational platform where it's like, hey, we actually are here to like have education. And so anyone who made education in that window was like pushed to the top. And I'm like, whoa. So like talk about when timing meets talent. Because if I would have started this as my first failure, I wouldn't have known how to like, build out a tech stack or have an email nurture campaign or really have a unique selling proposition or basically put together, an entire package and show people how to convert with a sales page. So it was by failing all those times that, it all came together. Um, and so the first year, uh, I what was it? I made about $350,000 online. And I'm
Wow.
like, whoa. And in 18 months, the second year was 900,000, but in 18 months time span, it was $1 million company. And it was like,
Wow.
what?
And that
And
and
it was
Mike, that
crazy.
was just on Udemy at that point
So
or
what I did
YouTube?
was after I made like 10 grand on Udemy and, Udemy took like, 50% or whatever it was,
Right.
I'm like, I'm gonna just, divert this away. So what I did was I put like I forgot what I did. There was something on Udemy where I kind of like locked the course, but I put a URL there. And then so it reverted people back to like another website. And I ended up just like shifting away from Udemy, just put that URL there. Um, and people would sign up for $40 a month to get access to 1,000 videos. Um, yeah, and a few downloads.
Wow. And tell just to jump ahead a little bit, tell the listeners a little bit what that became, like what simple nursing is and has subsequently become.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought it was a way to make money, right? I'm just like, everyone wants to make money online and travel the world. And the focus at the time, and it sounds really douchey, but it's really honest. The focus at the time was never to help people. It was like really just to like, live this 4-hour work week life. But it wasn't until I was a keynote speaker in 2014, like 2 years after I started it, in front of like 2,000 nursing students in Florida, the state of Florida. And students were coming up to me and like a few people were crying, like, oh my gosh, you saved my career. If it wasn't for your videos, you really helped me with pharmacology. I'm like, what? Like, really? Like, this is actually helping people? I mean, I knew people were watching it, but I wasn't really sure if it was making an impact. And so that's when things started shifting between like becoming like a mercenary in business to becoming a missionary in business. Because like mercenary is just always about the bottom line, cutting costs and blah, blah, blah. And then the missionaries are just about helping people. And if you go the missionary route, what I found is that, you have a lot of longevity. You're going to stick in the fight longer when the competitors come, which we almost went bankrupt 3 years later because the
Oh,
competitors did
wow.
come.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I told you this one.
No.
Yeah, so we did really well because it was a blue ocean. There was no one doing nursing education on YouTube and, having like a membership platform. So two competitors came in. One was really nasty and wrote a bunch of slandering blogs against me. Like he's not even a nurse. He's scamming students. He's helping them cheat. I'm like, dude, this guy's a dick.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then the other girl, she was kind of like a Christian girl from Alabama, but she basically like took the entire concept of what I was doing, and then just started putting it on for free on YouTube, but with better lighting, better sound, better colors on the whiteboard. I just had like a little whiteboard. She had like different colors and stuff. And it was just free, and you can't really compete with free. So, but that all happened around 2015, about 2.5, 3 years into it. 2015, we made, we were the only taco truck on the street, kind of, so we made like 2.1 million that year. Um, and then after 2015, all the way to like 2019, for about 4-ish years, we were going down 20% year over year because the guy that was slandering me had like a really good tech stack. Even though his lectures weren't that good, he had the app, he had like a user interface that was beautiful, and he had great SEO. And on the other side, I was getting smushed because this other side, this girl is like putting out just tons and tons of free content, not charging a dime. And I'm over here on like a 1984 Macintosh or whatever it is, like, trying to like, hey, buy my shit. Like, no one's gonna buy this stuff. So there was a huge like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, okay, we have two options. And I got all of our like, little family business in a room. And I'm like, my brother's wife's doing phones. My buddy from nursing school, who used to work at CarMax, he's doing our sales. And my dad's like running the books and stuff. And I'm like, guys, like, look at this trajectory. In 18 months, we're basically out of a job. Everyone, including me. So I'm like, we have two options. And at that time, I went inward again and I started doing a lot of meditation. I went back to the books. One of the best books that really helped me was The Alchemist, because it's all about a story of like this someone's on a journey for a treasure, this boy. And then you have to follow the omens and all these things. And it's like every single time you're on a huge breakthrough, you got to relearn all the lessons that compound over time at that point. And so for me, it was just like, it was really good in terms of character building, because I had one of two decisions. You can either become bitter or you can become better. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, what would I really want in nursing school? And if we did actually become a legitimate educational company, and by legitimate, I mean like, we had, business growth development. We had a, COO with actual seasoned experience. We actually had someone in sales and tech sales. We had people who actually know what they're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just like can re-envision this in my mind's eye. And I really just got on my knees and I fasted and prayed. I had my mom praying for me, and I'm like, listen, like the last thing in the world I really want to do is just become another rich douchebag. I think at the time I was just like, okay, I just like released it to God. I'm like, hey, just like do what you want with this. And if we do make any money from this, I got to be the CEO and take majority share of my shares. So like over 50%. And so that was my intention. I was like, I'm going to give away half of my net worth if we ever make anything. Because I'm like, what's half
Wow.
of nothing? Well, it's still nothing. I'm like, all right, it's not a bad deal. So, so that's what happened. We reorged, and we had to get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people on. And that was hard because I had to fire my brother's wife. We had to let go of one of my best friends from nursing school. It was like a World War III happening within like the
Wow.
company.
Wow.
Yeah. And I still remember it. It was crazy. Everyone had an idea of what the business did, right? It's like, oh, my dad was like, oh, you're saving for the future. Great job, son. My brother's wife, oh, you get to work from home. And everyone had this like, selfish idea. And not at one time did anyone say like, oh, we're actually here to help nursing students. So I knew that had to change. So I'm really grateful for that, that sinking period, that failure. Um, and so after we did the prayer and fasting stuff, it's crazy. And you can't make this up. Like 48 hours later, one of our mutual friends literally fit the criteria that we wrote down with a few of my business coaches on Thumbtack. So I hired like 4 business coaches on Thumbtack who were kind of just like helping me augment of like, hey, you need a new team, you need a vision, you need to like be really specific on what you want as a team. And this guy fit the criteria of like a 5-year expert in marketing acquisition online, came from Gartner, which is a really big marketing firm in the tech space in Austin, Texas. And one of the biggest things is he had a desire and a instinct to win, and that they call it grit. It was a really good book, The $1 Billion Coach. There was this coach who coached Steve Jobs and a few other founders. So I was like, man, this is great. So we worked out a contract and we put him in tiers. And I gave him basically, you can work up to 40% of the company. And 2019, we basically stopped the bleeding. I think we actually increased by 3%, which is crazy because we were going down so much. And it was so exciting, but so exhilarating. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going toward the trees and we're trying to pull up like, oh shit. And 2020 comes around. Yes. So, okay. So we basically split the company in two, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to make all the videos. I have to remake 2,000 videos. And then he, on the other side, is going to have to sell the videos and build out the business suite as a COO. And so I made an acronym called MBAs: Marketing, Budgeting, Analytics, Sales, and Service. So he does all that, and then I do the actual product. And as a business owner, it's so hard to do both, especially in the beginning phases. So if there's any business owners watching this, one of the biggest things that you have to understand is that, you're only as good as your team. You're never going to go to the Super Bowl if you don't have an all-star team. And that's something I had to relearn, because I always try to give my friends opportunities, but I'm like, you want your friend on your Super Bowl team, but dude, they're gonna drop the ball, bro. And it's great if you want to play Pee Wee and give everyone a shot, T-ball. But I'm like, if you really want an actual amazing company, you really need talented people. So yeah, like 2020 happened with COVID, and everyone who wasn't used to going online is now going online. And at the time, we remade over 200 videos in this time in full animation. So I had to re-envision the whole product, yeah. And so it was no more whiteboard. It was like full animation, like PBS style, and way better memory tricks. I literally looked at all the competitors online. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take some from you, take some from you, and I like put it together. I'm like, what I want as a student, and I didn't even know it was gonna work. I put my last $200,000 in. And I'm like, well, screw it. I'm gonna go now with my finger on the trigger. So yeah, 2020 comes around, we skyrocket by 300%. I'm like, whoa. And then, the next, what was it? Yeah, the next, I think 3 to 4 years, we increased by a few thousand%. So we go from like near bankruptcy, to becoming like close to $17 million company, in about a 4 year
Wow.
time frame. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think the biggest takeaways was just like, you got to be you're going to be bitter or better. And we decided to get better, and really focusing on the missionary part of it. Like, what would we want if we were in the customer's shoes? Um, but it's also like, I think it's a story kind of like The Alchemist of just really letting go and releasing and becoming a better person overall. And really choosing to help people instead of becoming a selfish person. Um, but yeah, we ended up exiting, with our parent company, for over $100 million, and it was
Wow.
crazy. Yeah,
Wow.
right.
Hey, and we played a
Wow.
small part in that. We played a
You
small
did,
part.
you did, you did. You really did. Even though, like dude, I wanted to launch the product we created together, but they
Yeah.
shelved it for like a year or a year and a half. I'm like, these, anyways.
Well, now I know that there's all these permissions that have like come out.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
wow. Well,
Wow.
thanks
Quite
for
a journey.
that's
Holy man.
Such a crazy journey. Yeah, it's the hero's journey, I guess. I don't know.
Wow. So from almost being bankrupt to selling it for 100 million in what was that? 5 years,
Woo!
4 years?
for you.
He said you basically went from being being bankrupt to selling for $100 million in 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. Actually 115. But yeah, it was crazy, man. And coming up to that, we got offers for like, 35 mil, and we're like, no, not yet. And then like 6 months to 9 months later, it's like, hey, 55. And we're like, oh man, this sounds pretty good. And then we're like, no, 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 we're not even at full stride yet. And then another one for 75, and we're like, ooh. And then we're like, okay, we'll pull the trigger if it's over 100. And then they finally came back. I was like, okay, 115. I'm like, oh snaps. I know, it's crazy.
What's your involvement with the company now? Are you still involved in Simple Nursing, or do you have another venture you're moving on to?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, a lot of people don't know this about mergers and acquisitions. When you sell a company, you're usually not like, done. What usually happens is you're on for at least a year or two as a bridge. At least the management staff, if it's a product without a face. But, Simple Nursing, I have the face. And so, uh, my contract with them is for 5 years. But I mean, honestly, I love it. I would do it for free just because it's my heart. And it's that missionary, aspect of myself. Don't tell the parent company that. No, I'm just kidding. No, no, but no, I'm just kidding. I told them the same thing. But yeah, so it's weird after you like sell something and you get like a huge influx of cash. It's really nice to, you know, I was smart about it and put like 90 something percent of it away in long-term investments. And I'm like, hey, but let's do some passion projects. So my brother was a firefighter, and he's like looking at me scale up this company. He's like, hey, why don't we start something together? I'm like, all right. So I got into longevity big time with like NAD boosting, stem cells, peptides, fasting, all these things. And so I started mixing together like different powders with amino acids and creatine. Basically, like the concept was, it was like, hey, like if you actually did everything that anyone ever said on a podcast to do, you'd have like freaking so many supplements, right? Like 50 supplements. Like take your magnesium at night, take your theanine, take your zinc, take your omega-3. So I literally have a spreadsheet I can show you guys of 50 something supplements.
Oh my gosh.
I know I have like a morning drink and then like a coffee with colostrum and all my functional mushrooms and cacao flavonoids. And so my brother's looking at me, he's like, dude, why don't we sell this as a supplement? And I'm like, no one's gonna buy this crap. And it was the same mindset that I had on the YouTube channel. But it was really funny because I'm just like, all right, let's just give it a shot. Who cares? So we spent like a 10 grand or 20 grand on like the first batch of a few hundred bags. And I'm like, Joe, my brother, I'm like, if you make the product, I'll promote it and we'll sell it to, whoever's gonna buy it. And we ended up selling out in like 8 weeks. I'm like, what the heck?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like once you understand the concept of business, you really understand that it's like, okay, it's all about the product first. And really, are you really, really helping people, or are you just selling crap and have good marketing, Um, because if you have a really good product, it kind of sells itself, kind of like simple nursing. Um, and so we're like, okay, because I'm using this stuff and I'm mixing together all these different brands from, Amazon. Um, But after we source it all, instead of being $200 to mix all this stuff, it actually came out, the COGS, or the cost of like, goods. Um, it only came out to like $25 to actually make everything. So like, what the heck? Yeah, like all these supplement companies, they upcharge the crap out of it. And so we made one of the first NAD boosters that's super potent, that has 1,000 milligrams of NMN and 1,000 of resveratrol, which are the two ingredients researched by Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard, who's curing aging in mice. There's a really good book called Lifespan, but he's on the frontier with him, Peter Attia, and a few others on the frontier of actually curing aging altogether. He says in the next 5 or 10 years. We'll see if it's true, but he's already done a lot of it with mice. So, really interesting. But anyways, with that concept, we started it last year, I would say in February-ish, and went back to the concept of product first, in terms of like, is it a good product? And then the people, because it's all about building your team. And we found the right growth partners, kind of like my previous business partner who helped me grow Simple Nursing and really turned around. Um, and it's the same poop, different diaper, and we're on we're on track to do 30 grand a month now. So
Wow.
in sales,
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
really cool.
So you mentioned something, Mike, that is so interesting and something that we think about too a lot, which is this isn't exactly the way you said it, but authenticity. That's the number one thing that we always preach to our customers. Part of the reason we're doing podcasts and podcasting has become so popular in general. But you said it, when you have a good product, it almost sells itself. It's almost like marketing should be a megaphone, not the product. And when you have an authentic product that's really good, marketing's just the megaphone. How do you get the product out to as many people as possible? Not, hey, marketing and sales is just shoving things down people's throats. So I think that you you told us about a really quick incline, and it sounds like, that you just put a megaphone to what you were already doing and really grew it.
Yeah, that's it, it's really simple, right? It's like most companies out there are just like, duct taped together with a bunch of marketing and sales. And the product is just crap. And I'm like, these companies should actually go out of business, because it's like, you know, it's like they're not really helping anyone. They're actually making life more frustrating.
Yeah. How, Mike, as a follow-up to that, and I totally agree with what Michael was saying about authenticity, and this podcast, the main thing that we ask a lot of our guests about is the power of storytelling and allowing your audience to really engage because we're so wired to appreciate stories and to latch onto them. Can you talk a little bit about that? Obviously, you're incredibly gifted on camera, and that's why a lot of people are drawn to your videos. But what was important for you in building Simple Nursing about storytelling on like a video by video basis, but also as you were growing the brand?
Yeah, I mean, um, are you talking about storytelling in terms of like, like the founder story and things like that?
Founder story, but also like how did you structure videos in a way that would make people want to engage with them? Like on a video by video basis, anything that comes to mind really about storytelling.
Yeah, for me, I was always like transparent. You got to be relatable, especially to your target demographic. And my target was, nursing students who are struggling and maybe like borderline passing or maybe failing. And just coming out the gate and being like, hey, like, here's my honest truth. I failed out of nursing school. And, I got kicked out because it's, nursing school's a pain in the ass. And this is how, this is how I would study for it. Um, and so just being relatable and being honest and, you know, even with this new supplement brand that my brother started, I'm like, hey, I was taking these supplements myself and mixing them together. It was costing me a few $100s. And so we sourced all the same material and third party tested it and giving you guys the discounts kind of thing. And so the founder story, I think, is really, they always say focus on what are you doing and why are you doing it, the what and the whys, and then the how and the when will come later. Because if your why is strong enough, then, then the rest will come. Um, but on the other side, I was just thinking in terms of my story of like, hey, what would I really want as a student? Something that's quick, to the point, engaging, and something that's going to help me remember whatever the concept is for my test. And so I would just try to put myself in the user's shoes and create the Disneyland that I wish I had, during nursing school.
And I think it's so important to start with the customer feedback too. Like you're talking about you were trying to create your first several failures. You were trying to create something that you thought people would want. And that's something that Michael and I have experienced as well as we've been developing different specific offers related to our brand, related to our product. A lot of times we were like, we really think that the customer should want this. And it's like, well, they don't. You really need to listen to what your customer actually wants. Um, and so I'm curious, obviously, Mike, we've collaborated together for several years, and we did a really cool project, the new grad prep course 2.0, I think was the nomenclature. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, as you're building a brand, what is like a vendor selection process like? Like you talked about building your own internal team. You talked about getting the right people. How does that extend to vendors, and what's your philosophy there?
Yeah, so I have like four rules of business. The number one rule is copy success. So it's kind of like, basketball, right? Be like Mike, be like the brand that you want to be like, but just put your own spin on it, right? Then number two is outsource everything to an expert team. So that's why we collaborated with you guys and our criteria of what makes an expert an expert. I think it was one of these talking heads on one of these podcasts. I forgot who it was. He wrote a few books. I forget his name, but he was saying that anyone has a 5-year expert. Anyone who's been in the industry for over 5 years and you can see their portfolio that it's pretty good work, is that expert. And you guys, let me think. You guys were in. We always did 3 quotes, and so we did 3, but you guys kind of stood out as like being the experts and working with big healthcare brands, like the American Heart Association, I think the Nat Geo and things. And we're like, whoa, these guys are really good. Um, and so yeah, that was our criteria right there. I'm like, oh, if anyone can pull it off, for sure, you guys could. So yeah, and it's just it's about working with superstar people. So that's all it is. So yeah, kudos to you guys.
Appreciate that. Well, it was a blast. It was. I remember, Mike. I was it was like over. We were trying to get a quote to you guys like end of the year. It was like New Year's Eve or something. And I remember I was traveling back from a vacation in Switzerland, and I was in the airport. I think it was like Newark Airport for a layover, and I got your email, and you're like, "Deal's done, we're doing it," and I was like, "Yeah," like, "Yes," and then little did I know it was gonna begin like a 5-month crazy process to get these hospital systems, but we're really proud of the work, and it's been incredible working with you and your team. And we had like twice a week Zoom calls for multiple weeks for a while.
Well, you guys did something that we could have never done. Like I don't even know where to start to like, contacting hospitals. We couldn't even get into nursing school to like, now we have like the private equity firm that's backing us with like PE firm or sorry, with B2B and all this stuff. But we didn't know how to do it as like a little team. So yeah, you guys really did amazing work.
So another question I have as we come to our final stages here, and again, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. But um, I'm curious about, we've talked a little bit about it, Michael touched on it, and we've talked a bit about the power of this format, podcasting as a format. And it's sort of, I mean, I know you've been a guest on so many, and you've done authentic direct to camera content for a huge portion of your career. But I'm just curious to get your take on what you think is so powerful about these types of conversations on direct to camera format, just that authenticity. Curious about your perspective on that.
Yeah, I'm all about just like, failing multiple times and trying a bunch of stuff out. I call it the spray and pray method. So you just like you have to try everything out and find, find where you can fit in. For me, it was YouTube. For other people, it's, well, I think it's social media in general, right? But I think the podcast is one of the most unique because we've been on this podcast right now for like almost 40 minutes or whatever it is. And now with AI, you can run this entire podcast and like this video through Opus or Get Munch. And then, you can get 10 clips that you can trickle out on, the top 4 platforms like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And then bam, like, you literally with one podcast, you probably have like a few weeks, if not a month worth of content. And then you can upload the long tail on YouTube. And then it's amazing. Like this kind of, you like literally hit so many birds with one stone. So it's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
ultimate hack.
yeah.
Um,
Totally agree. Totally
and th-
agree.
and then I think the second thing, other than ease of use, the only thing you're really trying to do with a product or a brand, and there's only 3 things. It's getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. And so for a long tail format, um, as you start listening to these personalities like Alex or Mosey, right? We create a personal brand. And then it's like, man, it's like you look up to him like kind of like you know him now. And it's like, okay. And so you trust him. It's kind of like, Oprah. It's like if you've seen her enough and she promotes a product, bam, they'll sell out. So you try to do the same thing with your stuff, with your personal brand, and then, just talk about whatever you're talking about and people start listening to you and start trusting you. And then they'll buy from you.
So what I'm hearing is Nurse Mike is the next Oprah. You're Oprah
Yes.
2.0, right?
You get a yeah. You get a car, you get a whatever it is. You get some longevity juice.
Michael, do you have any other questions for Mike?
No, this is great. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Dude, yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it. This is really fun. I like doing this a lot.
Mike, is there anything else you want to share about you, your journey, growth, or just business success before we adjourn the call?
No, I think the biggest thing is for anyone trying to scale a business is just to know, really drill down into what you're doing and why you're doing it. And always remember, you got to learn before you earn. If you're not earning, then it's really because you're not learning. And I have so many friends that do that. I have this one guy that I met. He's British, but he's Indian, and he's tried so many things, but he keeps on making the same mistakes over and over. So if you're not earning, you're probably not learning. And remember, just try to be like I would say get a mentor and try to be like a company. Pick a company that's really doing well and try to be like that, or pick a podcaster, pick whoever you really want to be. But just put your own personal take on it. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, thank you again for
Yes, sir.
joining. It's been a blast, Mike.